Hello there, and welcome to Thinking Ahead, where we teach you how to pay for college, pay for life, and stay out of debt, and generally think ahead about your choices. My name is Ronaldo Gerard Stevens, and I will be your host today and for the many foreseeable days of the future. But let's get right into the contents of today's episode. So, we are going to begin with talking about the path of your future. And with that, we have to discuss the ever-hanging question, is college right for me? Now, if you are a recent graduate, still in high school, have your GED, or even just looking for a trajectory, college may be one of your options that you're looking at, but I'm here to tell you that there are many, many other options available for you. Now, Albert Einstein, one of the greatest minds that we have known in this modern era, has said, anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. And I believe that that is true. When you are thinking about your future and when you're trying to make decisions towards your future, you should not let yourself making a mistake or getting stuck in something set you back or keep you from trying something else. Now, of course, he also said whoever does the same thing expecting different results is insane. However, we're trying to do something new. As for you right now, you are probably at a crossroads in your life. Whether you're trying to make a decision about going to school, whether you're trying to make a decision about what to do, what career you want, you are trying to decide where to go. And just like Bone Thugs and Harmony, I will see you at the crossroads. Yeah, it was a terrible joke, but I had to do it. All right, so we've all heard that the old adage that life is a game. And, I do think that that is true in some cases, but as we come up with better metaphors to represent how we look at life, I think it's better to see life as a platform. That PlayStation 5, that Xbox Series S, or, if you're Series C, I don't even know all the series for Xbox. I'm a PlayStation guy. So if you have your platform, you can choose your game. Again, life is a platform. You choose your game. So the important thing to think about is, what game do you want to play? So a lot of people out there, they like to be soldiers, they do Call of Duty. We have a lot of builders and imaginative people out there. They like to go with Minecraft. Watching out for the chicken jockey. Some people prefer to catch animals and explore regions, so that would be more of a Pokemon player. And then some people just like to cause havoc and make money. Those are those Grand Theft Auto players out there. However, let's think of this from a career aspect. If you're thinking of games and choosing a different game, think of life as a game platform. Choose your game. Choose the career, the job that you want to play at, what you like to do. Again, for the soldier seekers, that would be the military aspect. For the Minecraft builders, you might become an engineer or architect. If you like animals, then that could be a zoologist or a caretaker. And if that is Grand Theft Auto, sorry, not much of a future for you unless you're planning to be behind bars. In real life, you can't just paint your car and have all your stars go away. But the main thing I want to remind you of this is that college is not the goal. Your career, your job set is the ultimate goal. College is not the goal. It is just a way to get there. Let me rephrase this and put this in a different way. Imagine that you want to travel to a different city. I'm down here near West Palm Beach, so let's say I want to go from West Palm Beach to Sacramento or San Francisco or someplace far away. I would want to probably take a plane because that is the quickest way to get there. Mind you, it's not the only way to get there, but it is the quickest. So I would go to the airport, board my plane, and I would be in flight. Now, how many of you, once you're on your flight, would be like, well, that was my goal. I'm going to go ahead and get off now and stop heading towards the city. Because I got on the plane, so therefore it's done. Well, if you did decide to open that door and cabin pressure drop and, end up being on a poorly built plane that seems to be showing up now more lately, you would also end up on the floor or on the ground, much like Wile E. Coyote does whenever he misses the Roadrunner. What I'm trying to say here is, again, college is not the goal. Just like getting on the plane is not the goal. It's not the destination. You get on a plane to take you to the destination. It's just the method of getting there. And college is just the method of learning so that you can reach your goal. College itself is not the goal. And that is very important to remember because a lot of guidance counselors, unfortunately, treat college as the place where you will be and where everything will be solved for you. And that is not the case. College opens a lot of doors, and especially you can make a lot of connections depending on which college you go to, but you can learn at any college. And you can learn outside of college. Many people, including Jim Rohn and along with Tony Robbins and other motivational speakers and educators out there, say ABL. That is, always be learning. Now, I know that's not grammatically correct, but please bear with me. This saying is meant to tell you that in life, no matter what you're doing, you need to always improve yourself. You need to always seek to make yourself better. In college is a way of doing that, but it's not the only way of doing that. So let's take a look at some of our options. What are our learning options where we can learn how to do our job or learn a trade or learn a career? Well, first of all, the most obvious is university. This is the one that's talked to you a lot in high school. This is the one that a lot of people say, where's your degree from? If you look at a lot of job descriptions, they say need to have a bachelor's or a master's in such and such field. But it is not the only way to learn a career or a trade. You also have the military. Now, a lot of people have things with the military. I'm going to describe each of these in detail, but a lot of people do have problems with the military. However, it is a great way to learn a career, learn a job, and learn skills that will help you in whatever path you choose. You also have vocational school. Alongside of that, you have apprenticeship. You have joining the workforce directly and right away. And then you also have volunteer work. And I'm going to talk about each of these in detail, so please stay tuned. Let's start with the university or the college experience. So, college, we have a lot of benefits for college, and that is, of course, it does bring prestige to your learning experience. If you tell people you've watched 150 hours of YouTube videos on a subject versus having taken 2 classes on a subject, which, on paper is only 6 credit hours, but you do spend a lot more time in there, people will usually take the person who went to college class advice over the YouTube watcher's advice. Now, prestige is one thing. Another thing is that college is great for textbook and academic learners. So if you are a type of person that excels at textbook learning, you excelled in high school, you were kind of that straight A, the teacher was only there to answer a few questions type of person, college is going to definitely fit more into your learning style. College is also great for theoretical and research-based fields. If you are a physicist or desiring to be a physicist, I should say, or wanting to learn more about chemistry or even the experimental sciences, college is basically your way into those fields. You can get research jobs through universities. Now, what are some of the negatives about college? Well, first and foremost is the cost. It is an upfront cost, and you have to wait usually 4 years before you even see any payoffs. So you will be not working as much, usually, and you will be, of course, paying for those classes. Now, there are many ways to offset the costs of college, and I am going to talk about that in another episode. However, for a lot of people, you will still have to pay something out of pocket, and that is something that you need to keep in mind when considering a university. Another negative that I would consider is that it's a traditional classroom setting. Now, this is very important for people who don't learn best in a traditional classroom setting. So if you are the type of person that is more hands-on and you like to learn by experimenting, then college may not be the best option. They usually like to treat their classes with this is the correct answer and this is how things are done. Whereas if you do more of a trade, you have ways that things are done, but then you can experiment and see what method works best for you. All right, let's take a look now at the military service. Now, we now have 6 branches of the United States military: Air Force, Army, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force, and Navy. And all of those offer many opportunities. So, the benefits are the pros of being in the military. Of course, you are paid for your service. You get schooling or or training, depending on your post, and you of course do get the military benefits and in some cases prestige and respect of your fellow countrymen. And the benefits that they have are great for short-term and long-term servicemen. So, of course, the GI Bill, that's available for anybody that serves a minimum of 4 years. Then you have veterans benefits that you get through Veterans Affairs. And, of course, retirement packages if you serve longer. Now, the cons or the negatives of joining the military are you do have limited options in your first few years of service. When you're enlisted, to put it lightly, you are what some people call a grunt, depending on what service you're in. So you are the gopher. Wherever they tell you to go, you have to go to that area. So you may join the military wanting to be a doctor, but you may not have that option available within those first few years. The other con, and this is, again, dependent upon your personality, is your life is not your own. If a war breaks out or if there's a situation in the world that requires the military's presence, you will be told to go there and you will not have a choice to back out. Next on the list is vocational school. And vocational school, sometimes called VOTEC, is basically a trade school. Now, the benefits of this are multifold, and I think one of the biggest ones is that it is affordable, hands-on education that gives you experience for trade jobs. These are your construction workers, these are your plumbers, electricians, HVAC, and these are things that affect our everyday lives that don't require 4 years of schooling to necessarily learn it, but are still very important. Another good benefit of the vocational school path is that it combines with, or it can be combined with, an extension of your current high school classes. So if you are currently in high school, you can usually balance a vocational school workload alongside your high school workload and still move towards graduation and training. The negatives or the cons of vocational school: you are responsible for finding a job. So it is not where you're learning on the job, you are learning about a job, but you are still responsible for finding that job and possibly finding out what certifications you need. And remember that not all certifications are offered at all locations. So some vocational schools may offer more classes in electricity and pipe work, things that would be needed for that area, but you may not find, for example, auto mechanics at certain schools. Next on my list, we have apprenticeships. Now, apprenticeships are really, really good for people that need to be paid and need to learn the craft. So, the best part about this is that you are paid while you work and you learn under an experienced craftsman. So, the way it usually works with an apprenticeship, you have a crew of lower levels, then you have your mid-level people, and then you have your master craftsman, who is the person that's been there the longest. They're trying to share their knowledge, but they're doing it on the job. Again, another good thing is promotions are usually available as you take classes and as you learn. So you're opening up chances for higher pay and more options in the job as you are working. Some cons, negatives that come with apprenticeship is, depending on the program, you may have to take college level courses. I call this a con because it may have to be outside of your normal work hours. That means you're working a 9-to-5 job and going to college in the time that you have. I have had friends that were apprentices where they were basically doing 16-hour days a couple of days a week because they had to go to work, and then right after work they had to have 2-3 hour classes. So they were, between their classes, transportation, they were out of their home at least 18 hours of a day. And that is a pretty heavy schedule for a lot of us. And another downside to apprenticeships is that they are limited to certain fields, some of which are very competitive. Again, a lot of locations, electricians have a lot of apprenticeships. If you're working in construction, there are a lot of apprenticeships available, but it is a very competitive field because usually in the construction field, they are higher paying jobs and therefore people seek them. Next, we're going to look at joining the workforce in other ways. So, of course, the number one benefit of going directly into the workforce after graduation or after you get your GED is you get paid. Money in the bank. And for a lot of us that come from lower income housing, this is what we need right now. We're thinking of our future, we're planning for our future, but when it comes to your life and your family and the well-being of everybody around you, you can't live and work off of promises alone. You have to have that concrete payment in order to make your life work. And so that's why joining the workforce is such a big deal for many of us. Another unseen side of joining the workforce early is that you learn the soft skills that aren't taught in college. Now, for you younger people, this may not be a surprise, but a lot of us millennials and older, we have had the experience of seeing people come into the workforce right after college and not really knowing how to ask questions or how to even interact with their teammates. Because in college and in school, you really get to kind of choose who you're working with. You get to choose your friends, you get to choose sometimes where you sit and who you're going to work with. But in your real job, that's not always the case. So you have to learn how to work with or cope with people that aren't necessarily your friends. In fact, they may be your enemies, but they're still your coworkers. And that is a soft skill that is not taught in college usually. The last thing about joining the workforce, the last good thing I should say about joining the workforce, is that it's a great way to bide your time if you are thinking about or saving for a specific goal. Let's say that you are an entrepreneur and you have a very specific idea and you know there's a market for it and you know people will need it. However, you don't have the starting income. If you can work for a year or two and get that project base started and set aside money for that, you can have a launch that is more successful and more guaranteed to succeed than if you try to do it without any economic backing, whatever. The biggest negative about joining the workforce right away, and this is the one that everybody focuses on, is that without a degree and without certifications, some positions are just not available. I mentioned earlier how most jobs on their description will say such and such degree is needed, or such and such level of degree is needed from this type of university or this type of organization. And while those degrees give value to the people, they're not always needed to actually do the job. So it makes you look good on paper to have these degrees, and that's really where some of the strength of going to college comes from. So if you are joining the workforce, you can be in that position for several years, but if you don't have a degree, some doors will be closed to you. And while it may not be fair, it is the reality that we live in. So, I'm going to leave part 1 of this episode of Is College Right for Me off with a question. A series of questions, really. And it has to deal with, what do you want to do? And what are you good at? What do you want to do, and what are you good at? And I've created a quadrant section. How would I say this? I've created a worksheet that I want you to use to find out what it is that you're good at and what it is that you want to do. It's very simple, very easy. And with that, we're going to look at a chart. I call it my 4-quadrant skills versus desire chart. And the 4 quadrants on this chart is, I know what I want to do and I know what I'm good at. I know what I want to do, but I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I want to do, but I know what I'm good at. And the 4th one, I don't know what I want to do and I don't know what I'm good at. So if you fall into the last 3 categories, what I want to do, my goal is to move you into the I know what I want to do and I know what I'm good at category. So in the episode notes, please download the form, take a look at it, fill it out, and then on the next episode, we'll talk about how to use this to look at your potential options for the future. I'm going to leave you off with this. A degree is not a job title. A job title is not a person. You are defined by your choices. Choose to play the right game. And with that, we come to the end of our episode. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you're still looking to better yourself. Again, download that form, and I will see you next time on Thinking Ahead.